Well, good morning and thanks for joining me. Yesterday I was confused as to what this transformer was doing. I was able to measure one of the secondaries and for resistance, and it showed open, but when I powered the transformer, it actually showed it had 190 odd volts on it when it was unloaded. Even in circuit with the radio running, it still showed 180 volts. It's supposed to be 246, I think. So that confused me as to how it can produce a voltage. But then a bit later on, I thought I'll put a light bulb in the circuit on the faulty secondary, the open circuit secondary winding, and sure enough, it couldn't power it, and the voltage dropped to zero. So it was it's the fact of using one of these digital multimeters, which just doesn't put any load on it at all. So it was able to measure a voltage and not actually have a real usable voltage there. So I advertised to buy a new one of these, or a second-hand one, and luckily got one that's not that far away. So the gentleman's going to test it for me today, and hopefully I can pick it up tomorrow and fit it in. So I've pulled this one out just in anticipation. The interesting thing that really sort of confused me, or led to my confusion, was the fact that the radio worked perfectly, even with half the transformer not working. So it was working as a half-wave rectifier, and it works fine, and it didn't have a lot of hum. It probably has a little more hum than I would have thought, but gosh, it certainly worked as well as you would expect any radio to work. So that's the story of that. I've pulled it out. I'll hopefully pick up the new one tomorrow, and hopefully that'll get us back onto having a fully functional radio that functioned pretty well anyway without it. So I think what I need to do now is I've got to clean this up. I've cleaned a bit there, and I did do a video on it, which I'll just put in in a few minutes. I need to pull these. This is a choke, and that's the audio output, I think. It's either that or the other way around. I need to clean those up, get the rust off. That one might just clean up by itself, but that one I think I'll have to put a bit of paint on it just to make it look presentable. Yeah, just sort of clean up all the bits of rust, and I'll probably take these cans off and treat them somehow to get that corrosion that sits on there when the dust sits there and the water collects on it, and then they just corrode. So then I'll clean up as much of this as I can. I don't know that I'm going to take, I normally, or I'll very often take the tuning capacitor out, and they usually rust, but this one's not bad. It isn't actually rusted, so looks pretty good. So general cleanup, I think, is more. This is all this needs. I've got to take the glass off. It's actually been painted behind there. It usually has some sort of felt, but they painted this one, so it looks like a crackle finished paint. So I guess I'll just be able to repaint that. Glass is in good nick, so I'll just clean that, and that should be good. Very carefully clean it, of course. I'm going to take the numbers off. Yeah, and just generally clean up. I noticed the other day when this was working, there was a lot of crackling when I got up to around about this end of the dial. So I don't know if it's got a bend in the plates or what's going to happen there. Looks pretty good just looking at it now. found this interesting. The IF cans have got little mica capacitors soldered into them instead of the normal mica sheet that's sandwiched between two plates. The mica sheet tends to deteriorate over time, and you'll end up with crashing noises, and it sounds like a thunderstorm's in the area. So this is a great fix to hopefully avoid that problem. I've had a few sets that have succumbed to that and had to go and solder in little mica caps, so this one's done the job for us. It's a great idea. Okay, this chassis is galvanized iron, and it's looking pretty ordinary where I've taken the transformer out. It's beautiful and clean. I'm just going to see if I can restore it a bit. I've got this is just methylated spirit. See if I can get the mud off. Goodness. Wow, that is muddy. Maybe I should have washed it first. Anyway, it's just to see how this works, if it's going to work at all. So I'll just try and get. I think it's not bad, honestly. I'll just try and get it back to something. It's actually coming up pretty good, isn't it? So that's a bit of brasso. I'll just see if I can restore any sort of shine to it. Got my hand right in the way there, you can't see anything. So, focus camera. There. So there it is. It's not too bad, is it? Hasn't taken the rust off, but it's, well, I suppose there's a hole where the rust is. It's certainly broken down the zinc, so that's never going to come back. I guess so. If I was to sit there and do that to the whole thing, I could. That'd look pretty good, I think. Good morning. Well, we're back. I managed to pick up the transformer yesterday, so I've given it a bit of a clean and sprayed the laminations of the core. So that's looking pretty good now. I just got to solder it in. So that's good. Looking forward to doing that. And I cleaned the chassis yesterday. Perhaps a little bit disappointed in the Some of the rust's pretty deep. I just couldn't do anything with it. I might actually just polish it a bit more, and I'll put something on it, whether it's a bit of clear coat to protect it a bit. Cleaned up a lot of the ancillary stuff, so you know, they were just black, those things, and rusted on the base there. So in the sandblaster, and they come up terrific. So they're good. And of course all the other bits that we did up, so they've come up well. Yeah, very nice. I sandblast the top of these too. You just cannot get the corrosion out. So sandblasting kind of just makes it into a little speckly matted finish, and polishes up. Looks fine. Looks better than it did. Okay, so I'll put it all together. I also I'll show you this. I also painted the front. So yeah, that's come up all right. Colour's pretty good. I had a can of spray there that pretty closely resembled the old one. Also cleaned up the glass, so that's not looking too bad. I just use water on that. Got to be careful we don't take the lettering off it. This old lettering just falls off sometimes. Okay, so the radio's back together again. It's come up pretty good. It's nothing fancy, I suppose, but it kind of kept its original condition without looking so bad. It's yeah, so pretty happy. Just have a quick look underneath, and underneath there's the transformer in there, wired up. Got some new heat shrink on all the wires. The heat shrink had fallen, or the original insulation had fallen off. I've put a fuse in, it's earthed, and yeah, the rest of it, nothing much changed. Did manage to put some new bulbs in, so they should work. I've got some speaker wires connected, and an antenna's connected. So I think we're pretty much ready to give it a test run. I'll as last time, I'll run it through the variac, just gradually increasing it, and the isolation transformer, and I'll just keep an eye on the current draw and make sure we don't nothing's going wrong, and hopefully it'll all start working. So here we go. We're going to just slowly increase the power. I'll set this on watts, and let's see what happens. Now the watt meter won't read till we get up to about 50 volts. So watt meter won't read because I haven't turned it on. Right, let's try again. So once again we're up to 50. I've got all the valves in. I probably should have done them one by one. Still not reading any watts. We're up to 100. It's not pulling any power. It is turned on. 150, still not doing it. To 200. Something's not right there. The lights are on. Why is it not pulling any watts? There's no voltage. That's why. What does that mean? Alright, let's perhaps pull the rectifier out. I'll do. And maybe we'll measure some voltages in here. Probably what I should have done in the first place. So I was pretty confident, so I just went for it. It may not have been a good idea. So let's put the power on again. Now it's doing something. Well, we got 123 volts. £6, which is about right. Alright, so let's do some voltage checks. This should read at 260 something. Sorry, 160 odd. There it is. 160. 158. Yeah, 157. 158. So that's okay. That's okay. I wonder what it's doing before. Have I wired something wrong somewhere? I can't imagine that I have. I can't. I put everything back where it was. Pretty confident of that. I've got the got the primaries in there. The primary voltage going in 142. So we've got our lights on. So we got up to 240. 16 watts. Really? For the heaters? Maybe. Got pretty bright, don't they? $255 a side. That's right, it was supposed to be 264, I believe it was. Yeah. So voltage wise, what have we got? 230. So that'll be measured at 240. Oops. Let's try and get about 240 there, a bit under, whatever. That left. So we should have 160 odd AC volts coming out of the, or going into the rectifier, and it's absolutely spot on. 165, 100, yeah, perfect. Right, so that part's okay. So what have I done wrong? Am I imagining something was wrong? I'll put the rectifier in. I'm going to change the leads on my multimeter. Let's try that again. I've got a black. That'll be our. We'll just stick it on earth. Okay, so I've got the leads on the output of the rectifier and the other one on the earth, the chassis, I should say. So that should be DC. I'll put it on DC. See what happens. 238 watts. We got nothing. Oh, there it goes. I know why it didn't work. I didn't have it on the right setting. So 38 watts. That should drop off a bit. Maybe it's already dropped off. And we've got 235, and I think the voltage going out was 240, so I've just lost my little sheet here somewhere. I'm pretty sure it's 240. No, I think it's outside. So that's pretty much, that's exactly right. So everything's perfect. So there's some noise. Not getting any stations at all. It doesn't sound good, does it? Nothing. It's a bit of crackling and I can get hum, so there's something going on there. With I'm not touching. If I touch that, it should produce some feedback.
Show. Hey, great! How many people will be rocking out at the Charleville Show, do you think?
So we found out the issue was one of the pins on the mixer valve had wasn't contacting properly. It was intermittent, so I've reworked the base a bit, cleaned up, deoxidised the pins and the sockets, so it seems to be pretty stable now, so off we go. It's great. I'm a bit concerned there's some crashing noises in there that I maybe some sort of micro issue. I'll have to have a look at that a bit later on, I think. I was going to put this glass on again. And these little guys were there, so put them there. Then they had got to admit I can't remember which way that went. I guess that lines up with that, which it does. I guess that's right. The other one goes there. Push that up there a bit. I'm just guessing where it is now. I'll have to, once I get it in the cabinet again, I guess we'll be able to tell. Okay. Righto, so let's see how we go. So we've got the glass on, the pointer. Let's run this all the way up one end. Ooh, gee, it doesn't like out up there. And that sits on there. Why does it go all the way over there? Oh. Let's put some power on it. That looks pretty good, all lit up. Yeah, that looks good. Very happy with that. I wasn't sure about painting it, but I think that'll look fine once it's in the case. Good. Turn the light off.
Journalist in 1974. I was on secondment to the National Broadcasting Commission at that stage. There were 6 journalists earning a living, reporting for Australia from the ABC. There were the Fairfax newspapers had someone there, AAP. There were a range of people.
Okay, so we've had just a bit of trouble with this tone control. It is tone control. It's an on-off switch and tone control. So it's disintegrated inside on the wipers, or the actual resistors. Gone, worn away. It's got the switch bit down the end there. So it was just, all it was doing was turning 90% of the way, and then all of a sudden it'd go, the tone had changed. So I've got a spare. This one here is 500K. So I don't have a 500K, but I do have I believe, there it is there. It's a 1 meg B. So B type logarithmic, I think B is. I'll have to check. So that's 1 meg. That's 500K. So, but I don't think it's going to make a lot of difference, because the tone control is just open-ended anyway. So it's just going to take, I'm not sure what it's going to do actually. But what I can do, I think, is put a resistor across there to make it back to 500k. So I'll have a look at doing that. I've done that before and it's worked fine. So we can make this 1 meg a 500k. Okay, so I fitted a new switch and tone control potentiometer. I changed the capacitor while I was there. It actually fell off when as I moved it away from the chassis, so that was ready to go anyway. So it works fine. I think it's a logarithmic, but you can't tell. It's only tone control, so it works just fine.